When life feels uncertain, when the shadows seem longer than the light, and when the silence of heaven appears deafening, there is a truth we often overlook. It is not written in thunder, nor carved in stone, yet it rests quietly in the fabric of our existence. God is watching over you. Not in the way of a stern judge waiting for your stumble, but in the way a loving parent watches a child learning to walk. Every step matters, every fall is noticed, every effort is cherished. He does not lose sight of you when the world turns its back, nor does he forget you when you forget him. His gaze is steady even when yours is clouded with doubt. Think for a moment about the nights you have laid awake, replaying your worries, building castles of fear in your mind. In those hours when no one else sees, he does. Not one sigh escapes unnoticed, not one tear goes uncounted. We are never unseen, though we may feel forgotten. The very fact that we wake to another dawn, that breath returns to our lungs, that strength somehow rises in us again, these are quiet reminders that his watch is constant, his care unbroken. It is easy to imagine God's watchfulness only in the grand and miraculous. We look for parted seas, blazing skies, voices from the heavens. Yet more often his watching is woven into the small and ordinary, the stranger's kindness, the unexpected provision, the moment of courage that arrives just when you thought you could not endure. These things are not accidents scattered across your path. They are signs that you have never been abandoned. He has not left you to navigate the storms alone. His hand may be unseen, but it steadies every trembling moment. The truth is, much of what troubles us is born of our limited sight. We cannot see the whole story, so we think the story is collapsing. We cannot see the other side of the mountain, so we think there is no path. But God sees what you do not. He watches from the beginning to the end, from the valley to the peak, from your first breath to your final one. Where you see only fragments, he sees the whole picture. And because he watches, you can walk even through the unknown, knowing the one who knows all holds you in his sight. So do not mistake silence for absence, nor hardship for abandonment. You are being watched, not with suspicion, but with care deeper than you can measure. You may be pressed, but you are not forsaken. You may stumble, but you are not forgotten. Even in your loneliest hour, you are under his watchful eye, and that alone is enough to stand, to breathe, to hope again. God's watchful presence is not distant or harsh, but tender, like a loving father who notices every step, every tear, and every struggle of his children. When we speak of God's watchful presence, it is important to correct the image that too often rises in the human imagination. Many think of him as a distant monarch sitting upon a throne so high that our small lives scarcely register to his concern, or as a judge holding a ledger in which every failure is written in unyielding ink. Yet that is not the picture we are given. His watch is not the glare of a magistrate waiting to strike, but the gaze of a loving father whose heart is bound up with the well-being of his children. To say that God watches over you is to say that no sigh goes unnoticed, no tear is unseen, no step is taken outside the scope of his care. It is the watch of one who cannot look away, because his love does not permit him to forget. Even in your weakest hour, his eyes remain fixed, not with scorn, but with a compassion that endures. Think of a child learning to walk. The parent does not stand across the room with folded arms, tallying every stumble and failure, ready to condemn the child for weakness. Instead, the parent bends down, arms stretched, eyes never leaving that small frame wobbling forward. The stumbles are not reasons for rejection. They are occasions for encouragement. The falls are not counted as defeats, but as necessary steps in growth. So it is with God's watch over you. He is not marking your missteps as evidence of your unworthiness. He is noticing them as moments where His strength can steady you, His grace can lift you, His patience can endure with you until you stand firmer than before. His eyes follow you not because He suspects you, but because He loves you too much to let you fall without care. When the day closes and you lie in the stillness of night, perhaps burdened with worries you cannot share, there is still one who sees. The world may be asleep, your friends unaware, your family silent, but He who neither slumbers nor sleeps does not turn away. He watches when no one else can. Even in the dark where your fears whisper loudest, He remains attentive. The restless turning of your mind, the prayers you cannot form into words, the tears that fall upon your pillow, all of it is gathered into His sight. This is not the watch of surveillance, but of sympathy. Just as a mother cannot fail to hear the cry of her child, even in the depths of sleep, so God does not fail to perceive the faintest cry of your soul. It is tempting to believe that His watch is only upon the grand and noble moments of life, the times when you stand strong in faith, or when your deeds shine brightly before others. But the truth is quite the opposite. His care is especially attentive in the small and hidden places, the moments that seem insignificant to others. The quiet decision to speak truth when it would have been easier to lie, the effort to forgive when resentment calls louder, the silent endurance of pain no one else understands, these are not missed by Him. His watch is tenderest where human eyes fail to see. The unnoticed moments of your life are noticed by the One who sees all. Consider also that His watching is not limited by time as ours is. We see only the moment we inhabit, and our perspective narrows to the problem directly before us. But God's gaze spans your beginning and your end, your past and your future, your failures and your victories. When He looks at you, He sees not only who you are, but who you are becoming. He does not watch with impatience, asking why you are not already perfect. He watches with anticipation, knowing the work He has begun in you will be brought to completion. His watch is therefore not passive, it is purposeful. He sees the whole arc of your life, and every moment, even the ones that feel wasted to you, is held within His redemptive plan. The tenderness of His watching is also revealed in how He responds. For what good is it if He sees, but does not act? Yet His gaze is never detached. When the child cries, the parent comes. When the sheep strays, the shepherd searches. When the disciple falters, the Lord restores. His watchfulness is always accompanied by His nearness. You may not always perceive it in the way you wish, for His answers may come slower or in stranger forms than you would choose. But His care does not fail. Sometimes it arrives in the encouragement of a friend, sometimes in the strength to endure another day, sometimes in the sudden lifting of a burden. Whether in subtle ways or in striking providence, the One who watches also acts. Do not mistake His patience for neglect. A parent watching a child learn to walk does not rush to carry the child at the first stumble, because the parent knows that strength is formed through the effort of rising again. In the same way, God's watchfulness does not mean He will prevent every fall or shield you from every difficulty. His love is not indulgent, it is wise. He sees what each trial can shape in you, what each tear can water, what each burden can build. And so His watching is not always the prevention of pain, but it is always the promise that no pain will be meaningless. He does not turn His eyes away when you struggle. He is watching with the certainty that even this moment, which feels unbearable, will be woven into something greater than you can yet imagine. When you walk through days that seem unnoticed by the world, remember that you are noticed still. When you feel the weight of failure pressing down, remember that He watches not to condemn but to lift. When you are weary of the silence, remember that silence is not absence. His gaze is steady, His love unbroken, His presence unshaken. He watches over you not because he must, but because he chooses to, and because his heart cannot do otherwise than to keep you always before him. His care is often revealed in the quiet, ordinary moments: unexpected kindness, strength in weakness, and provision in need, signs that you are never abandoned. There are moments in life when we expect God's care to announce itself with trumpet blasts and dramatic rescues. Yet so often, his presence is woven into the small and ordinary fabric of our days. Many miss this because they are waiting for the extraordinary, straining their eyes toward the horizon for miracles, while overlooking the quiet mercies at their feet. But the truth is that God's watchfulness does not always arrive with spectacle. It often reveals itself in the simple provisions that sustain us, in the quiet graces that nudge us forward, in the little signs that whisper we are not abandoned. To recognize his hand in these moments is to discover that the ordinary is not ordinary at all, but sacred ground where his love is quietly at work. Think of the times when, weighed down by trouble, you received a word of kindness from someone you least expected, at the very moment you needed it. Perhaps you considered it coincidence, a mere accident of timing, but look closer and you may see more. Such moments are often the gentle touch of God's care, reminding you that you are not alone. Or consider the strength that rises in you during seasons when you were certain you had none left. How often have you faced a burden you thought too heavy, only to discover a hidden resilience, a courage that surprised even yourself? That strength did not come from nowhere. It was given, a quiet gift placed within you by the one who watches and provides. Provision does not always arrive in dramatic abundance. Sometimes it comes in the form of just enough food to sustain, just enough encouragement to endure, just enough light to take one more step forward. This is no accident. God's care is not measured in excess, but in sufficiency. Like the manna in the wilderness, it arrives day by day, a reminder that you are sustained not by chance, but by deliberate care. He does not leave you to wander without bread. He places before you what you need, even when it seems meager by human measure. To see his watch in these provisions is to learn contentment, to recognize that you are carried, even in scarcity, by a hand that does not let go. There are also those moments of unexpected redirection, when doors close you were desperate to open, or paths you were determined to walk suddenly vanish. At first, such events may feel cruel, as though heaven is indifferent to your desires. Yet often these are among the clearest signs of his care. For just as a shepherd's watch is not shown only by leading the sheep to green pastures, but also by keeping them from wandering into danger, so too God's watchfulness often appears in the opportunities denied as much as the opportunities granted. What you call disappointment may, in time, be revealed as protection. What you name failure may turn out to be the mercy of being spared from what would have harmed you. His care is hidden not because it is absent, but because it often works in ways beyond your immediate understanding. When the weight of suffering presses heavily, it can be difficult to see God's care at all. Pain blinds us, convincing us that we are forsaken. Yet even here his watchfulness leaves quiet traces. The endurance that holds you when you thought you would collapse, the comfort that appears in the simple presence of another person, the peace that descends like a calm in the middle of a storm, these are not born of chance. They are the gentle evidences of a love that does not look away even when life feels unbearable. His watching does not mean you will not weep, but it does mean that none of your tears are wasted. Each one is seen, each one is counted, each one will be redeemed in ways you may not yet grasp. The world teaches us to measure care by grandeur, by visible interventions that erase struggle and solve every problem. But God's care often moves on a quieter scale. It is revealed in the sparrow sustained by crumbs, in the lilies clothed without toil, in the unseen ordering of moments that preserve us from harm. If He notices the smallest bird, if He dresses the flower with beauty, then how much more is His watchful care upon you? The ordinary becomes extraordinary when you begin to see it through this lens. The meal you share, the roof that shelters you, the friend who listens, the strength that returns with the dawn, these are not merely ordinary events, but the language of divine watchfulness written into your daily story. Even your failures can bear witness to His care, for though you stumble, you are not left to lie in despair. How often have you found forgiveness where you expected rejection, or been given another chance when you deserved none? This, too, is His watchfulness at work. His care does not end when you fall short, it presses in closer, just as a potter does not discard clay when it resists his shaping hands, but continues to mold it with patience, so God's watch is not broken by your resistance. Instead, He works even through your weakness, ensuring that your story is not defined by failure, but by the persistence of His love. It is worth remembering that care is not always felt in the moment it is given. A child may resist the discipline of a parent, seeing only restriction and not love, but with time the child learns that protection was present even in the rules they disliked. So too with God's quiet interventions. What feels like loss today may later be recognized as preservation. What seems like silence now may one day resound as wisdom. His watchfulness is not bound by the immediacy of your understanding. It stretches beyond, working even when you cannot see, arranging even when you do not notice, sustaining even when you do not acknowledge. If you can learn to look for Him not only in the thunder, but in the whisper, not only in the miracles, but in the mercies, you will discover that His care surrounds you more fully than you imagined. The quiet, ordinary moments will begin to shine with significance, each one a testimony that you are seen, you are known, you are carried. For the God who watches does not leave His beloved unnoticed, and His presence is as real in the daily bread as it is in the parting of seas. Though we cannot see the whole picture, God sees beyond our limits. His watch ensures we are guided, protected, and never forsaken, even in silence and hardship. We often live with the burden of limited sight. Our eyes fix themselves on what is immediate, what is visible, what is urgent, and because of this we frequently mistake the part for the whole. We see the broken piece and assume the entire design is ruined. We face the dark valley and believe there is no path forward. We endure a season of silence and assume the heavens have closed their doors. Yet God's watch is not bound by our narrow perspective. He sees the whole story, from the first breath to the last, from the struggle you are in to the glory you cannot yet imagine. To know that He watches is to know that the fragments which confuse you are part of a larger pattern He understands fully. Where you see randomness, He sees order. Where you see detours, He sees direction. Where you see endings, He sees beginnings that you could not yet conceive. Imagine standing before a great tapestry, but so close that all you can see are tangled knots and threads crossing in strange directions. You would judge the work to be chaotic, perhaps even meaningless. Step back, however, and the picture begins to emerge, the design becomes visible, and the beauty is undeniable. So it is with our lives under God's watch. We see only threads from up close, the heartbreak, the unanswered prayers, the doors that close too soon, the disappointments that cut deeply, but He sees the whole tapestry, every thread connected with purpose. Nothing is wasted, nothing is accidental, nothing escapes his eye. His watch is not only the gentle care of the moment, but the steady vision of the entire story being woven together. Because we cannot see as he sees, we are tempted to doubt in the silence. We pray and the heavens appear unmoved. We wait and time seems merciless. We long for clarity, yet only fog surrounds us. But even here his watch is unbroken. Silence does not mean absence. Delay does not mean indifference. His watching is active even when it seems invisible, like roots growing beneath the surface of the earth, unseen yet sustaining the tree above. You may feel abandoned, yet he has not turned his gaze away. He sees what you cannot, that the waiting is forming patience, that the silence is teaching trust, that the unanswered questions are opening space for a deeper faith. What you interpret as neglect may in fact be the very shaping of your soul under his watchful eye. There are seasons when dangers surround you that you do not even perceive, and it is only his watchfulness that preserves you. How many times have you been spared from paths you thought you wanted, only to realize later that they would have harmed you? How many near disasters have been averted without your awareness? The fact that you rise each morning, that your heart beats, that breath enters your lungs again, is itself evidence that he has kept watch through the night. We take these mercies for granted, but each is a testimony that his gaze has not left you for even a moment. He protects not only from what you see, but from countless things you never knew to fear. His care is both visible and invisible, present in ways that your mind cannot begin to measure. To recognize this truth is to be freed from the tyranny of appearances, for appearances deceive. A storm may appear to destroy, yet in God's watch it may cleanse the air and bring new growth. A loss may appear final, yet in God's vision it may be the seed of something greater. A failure may appear devastating, yet through his eyes it may be the very tool to humble, to teach, to prepare you for responsibilities you could not yet carry. Human sight is too short, too narrow, too clouded by fear and desire. But God sees beyond the surface, beyond the moment, beyond the immediate pain. His watch is the assurance that your life is not left to chaos, but guided by wisdom that cannot err. When you walk through valleys, it is his sight that ensures you are not lost in the shadows. When you climb mountains, it is his sight that ensures pride does not lead you astray. When you wander in confusion, it is his sight that ensures the path bends back toward home. He is not only observing, he is guiding, though you may not always perceive the guidance. Just as a shepherd does not merely watch his flock, but directs it toward safe pastures, so God's watch is not passive but purposeful. He sees dangers you cannot, and so he leads you away from them. He sees blessings you would miss, and so he positions you to receive them. His watch is both care and command, both protection and providence. This truth becomes most precious when life feels unbearable, for in such times your vision is often clouded by pain. You cannot see beyond the grief of the moment, the weight of the burden, the ache of the unanswered question. Yet he sees beyond it, and his watch assures that even this suffering is not meaningless. He sees how it will be redeemed, how it will be woven into strength, how it will prepare you for joys that do not yet exist. Your tears are not overlooked, and neither are they wasted. Under his watch, even sorrow has a place in the tapestry, and even wounds can be transformed into sources of healing. It is humbling to realize that you are never unseen. Not in the crowd, not in the silence, not in the struggle. His watch follows you in the depths and in the heights, in the confusion and in the clarity, in your rebellion and in your return. He does not lose track of you, for you are not a number among many, but a beloved soul upon whom his eye rests continually. To live in this awareness is to live with a deep assurance that no step is taken in vain, that no moment is beyond redemption, that no hardship is without purpose. For where your vision fails, his remains steady, and where your strength falters, his watch holds you secure.